All right, let me know.
I will. About halfway. Five, four, three, two.
Oh, 7-star citizens, and welcome to Answer the Call, your weekly call show podcast thing where me and Mike complain about the game, and sometimes, and for most of this year, praise the game a little bit more than normal.
Yes.
Definitely, it's felt like that. They've been kind of going super hard every week. Before we even talk about anything, though, if you are watching this on YouTube, this week we added memberships, so you can actually join if you want to support the channel. You get access to a couple of emotes and a couple of badges, and we're also going to be doing I think we settled on quarterly, like dedicated memberships episode where you guys get to ask your questions and call in, and it's your show
You,
essentially.
you know how we always have like stick to the topic, please. You get to
Hmm.
choose the topic.
Yeah, yeah, we have to stick to the topic this time.
Exactly. We have to stick to your topic. That's kind of the idea behind that. I was also there's something we didn't even talk about this, Croncy. There's also something I did in
Mhm.
the past is not everybody is comfortable going on camera. So we can
Yeah,
there's the possibility of accepting like written in
text-based
messages.
questions. Yeah,
Yeah, text-based questions from members, things like that.
yeah,
So they can get themselves out there. We can maybe make a scene where we can show the text or whatever, something like that. So we could
yeah.
think about some things in that front. We already have quite a few callers.
Hmm.
I unfortunately, again, I am the bane of this show's existence. Have family gatherings. It's like birthday season for all of us. Is basically what's
uh,
happening. And then
yeah,
after this week, we should be pretty good.
fair
Last
enough.
few weeks has been hockey, and this week it's a birthday, so it's kind of
Yeah.
rough. But topic server meshing, big deal. That was
Yep.
the big deal this week. There was
Hmm.
also a very interesting ISC, a not very interesting SEL, and the Overdrive event has swapped over to phase 2 of the event. So
Hmm.
I kind of want to start with that because it's just the one that we can get out of
Yep.
the way really quickly. Phase 2 is kind of lame. It's a
It
bit of a
is. It straight
letdown.
up is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's exactly the same as it was in PTU, but
Yep.
we had the advantage of in PTU that it wasn't as staggered as it is right now. Right, we could essentially go straight from phase 2 into phase 3.
Yeah.
Um, I think it would be a lot better if just for a reference, what it is you go and essentially do a bounty, and then there'll be a loot drop from the bounty that you then take. Like you do a delivery mission
Yeah.
essentially.
Our last
Um,
one was a good one. The first
yep.
two, so basically it drops a crypto key, and you have to bring that crypto
Mhm.
key to an admin at a
Yep.
station. It can be like Everus Harbor, or it could be Crusader L1. It could be any station,
Mhm.
basically. And you just put it in the little Amazon delivery container, and that's it.
Yep.
The the first two that we did, though, it was like fly across the system, kill this thing, fly back across the system to deliver it, and
Yep.
that was kind of annoying. And I think that's what most people don't like about it. The thing that
Yep.
I don't like about it is it's again the same thing that I didn't like about the thing last week, which was um, there's no voice acting. So I there is story happening,
Mhm.
but it doesn't feel like there's story happening, and that's
Yeah.
my only takeaway so far from Overdrive. I think the missions are quest lines like any other
Mhm.
MMO. They're not going to be like super in depth, but it's usually the story that is unfolding is what's interesting. And I think phase 1 and phase 2 could have been kind of combined
Yeah.
together because it's sort of the same part of the story unfolding there. That's that. You said the next phase was
Yep.
going to be really interesting, or maybe the one after that.
Yeah.
What does that
I,
entail?
I believe it's phase 3. Though someone may correct me and it might be phase 4, but it's definitely coming up soon. Is essentially there's like multiple hammerheads that you have to fight. It's kind of like a fleet battle.
I've seen that one.
And
Yeah.
it is not it's everyone on the server can grab the mission. So the first two phases that we've had right now, it's essentially one person claims the mission, and then like your party can join in, whatever. But it's one person, it's one dedicated one.
Hmm.
Whereas, yeah, the next phase is essentially a little bit more like your money for nothing, or the
Xenothreat,
salvage one.
like a mini
Yeah,
Xenothreat
it's
kind of.
yeah, essentially, yeah, where it's just everyone can take as long as you've unlocked it,
Correct.
everyone can take it.
Yeah.
So that one should be a lot more fun. I don't necessarily have anything against this mission. It's just it's stands out amongst all the other phases as just a little bit boring.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. The only other thing I would want to add is um now that the phase has changed over, if you have not completed the first phase stuff, those missions will be available for you. And there
Mhm.
was some updates based on I don't know who's right. The mission devs say you just have to do 5 random missions, doesn't matter what level, but it doesn't appear that way because you're not getting the next phase unless you did of your on your own end if you did not do all each level of the initial phase. So
Yeah,
you will not see these phase 2 missions available to you until you have completed the levels of phase 1. So this will give you the
yeah.
opportunity to do that, and they're both available at the same time. When we have phase
Mhm.
3, phase 1, 2, and 3 will be available. So just work your way
Yep.
through it, and if you want to get that reward at the end, don't don't uh make the mistake of assuming that you're good. Cover your
Yeah.
bases, right? If that reward actually
Yep.
matters to you. That's all I have on that.
Yeah.
What do you want to go into next? You want to go into meshing, or do you want to talk about the ISC real quick?
Let's let's go ISC just because
Okay.
I feel like meshing is going to be the biggest. It's for everyone who's watching right now, like on YouTube VOD and is seeing like the title and stuff. It's the most important topic, so we're going to spend most of the like episode talking about it.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
I think yeah, let's go on to the freight elevators. This ISC, which was probably one of the most anticipated ISCs in the last couple of months, because we actually got to see everything. We got to see what the idea of stuff. How the hell is this all going to work, and what does it look like?
Well, I think probably the most not it's not surprising because it was sneak peeked, but the
Yeah, yeah.
most the biggest change was that the elevator opens up from the ground.
Hmm.
I'm gonna try and bring it up here. I do believe I have it available. Yes.
Yeah.
So when you do call up a ship, it's now an like a more elite dangerous elevator than
Hmm.
what we had before, where the ship spawns in the ground. You will no longer have a ship pop in. That's basically the
Yeah.
reasoning behind it. It also does support the idea of like your ship being loaded with
Hmm.
cargo. That was something that was another big piece to the puzzle. I think around this was the cargo loading and the UI
Yeah.
around that. I thought was pretty interesting. This is the second part where you can see
Mhm.
your personal inventory versus cargo cargo type stuff or commodities on the left side. I think.
Not quite. That's no. The
Explain
left
it then.
side
Yeah, because
is.
I this was I go through it
Yeah.
so quick, but you don't
Yeah. Yeah.
fully. It's hard to fully gather.
The left side is literally play Tetris for all of your gear that's about to come up. Is essentially what it seems to be.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah, or
you'll choose your
commodities, I
things.
think, as well.
Well, commodities would be part of it, but they would
Mhm.
actually be on the right side there. So your
Gotcha.
commodities will come up in your inventory. So you'll
Gotcha.
say move these to the left. Now they didn't show, as far as I remember during the IC, they actually didn't show what that looked like. So maybe it doesn't exist yet. The UI is not ready, whatnot. But yeah, all the context clues are saying the left side is play Tetris for what's coming up. You also can see that it's got a capacity of 8 SCU. So this would presumably be on like a smaller freight elevator or maybe one of the smaller hangars or something.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, that's what it appears to be.
Okay. It could also be an 8SU container,
Hmm.
potentially.
Yeah, yeah,
Because
possible.
they
Yeah.
did mention something about that as well, of you
Hmm.
putting a container in there. The other thing was that they talked about was like cargo loading timers that
Yeah.
oh see like that
Oh, there
real
you go.
quick
Mm.
yeah that weird real quick scene there for a second is like it looks like the Tetris, but this is also the loading screen.
Yeah, that's just it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's
But
just the idle screen.
it also gives off what it may be because it is
Yeah.
very similar to the other screen, right? Where you might be able to place the boxes in. So we'll have
Mm.
to see. But the only controversial thing I think was people don't like the cargo loading timer that your ship is unavailable. I think people wanted to see the NPCs loading it, which is actually insane. You want NPCs in this game doing anything, you're a psychopath, I think. Yeah, here's cargo loading. I found it.
Yeah.
So for me, I like the idea of it being behind, just like hey, you and I mine.
Yep.
And I have no issues with the way refineries work. Do you? I like the refinery system. It obviously takes a very
Mhm.
long time. I kind of like that. This show's 10
Yeah, I
minutes.
like being able to. I like being able to go. I've spent today mining. In 2 days' time, I'm gonna spend that day moving all that cargo from
Yeah,
like refined. Yeah,
exactly. I like mining for a week,
yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
And then gathering everything up and then going. I love the
Hmm.
idea of that. I didn't notice this when I talked about it in my React, but apparently the price goes up by about 100 credits when using the load time in comparison to the commodity price.
Okay.
I don't. I still don't know where people saw that, but somewhere
Yeah,
there it does go up.
yeah.
It's a
Someone
little
probably
bit
did
more
the math or whatever.
expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so yeah, people did the math, and it was multiple people in my comments. So it does appear to have just like a placeholder
Hmm.
payment for it, but we will see
Yep.
what the cost will be in a PTU or later. Outside
Yeah.
that, I don't have much. I thought that this was a really kind of a bummer one in the sense of there's a
Hmm.
lot more questions to ask. But the beauty of it is that we
Yeah.
have a Star Citizen Live that we get to ask those questions on. So they left a lot
Yeah.
out and we have a lot of opportunity. So I'm really looking forward to whenever they post that thread.
Hmm.
Big one. If you have just an Aurora, but you earn enough money to get a medium sized ship or a large ship,
Yeah.
we can't tell if that hangar will adjust in size or not.
Yeah.
Um,
For reference to what Mike's talking about, they mentioned during the ISC that the persistent hanger you will receive will be based on the largest ship that you have,
mhm.
but they don't talk about, well, what happens if I then buy a larger ship?
Exactly.
Yeah.
The only mention is, and a lot of people made the assumption, and I think that they are
Mhm.
right to make this assumption, is that when the new patch cycle goes through, your hangar will be upgraded to larger, because they
Yeah.
didn't make a little mention of that at the beginning of that discussion in the video. The only thing
Yeah.
is I just want to clarify that
Yeah. Yeah.
because that's one of the moments where I will get on my soapbox bitch and complain because then you have designed a system again around the pledge store and not
Yeah.
around the game, right? And I know it's a first
Yeah.
implementation, but these are the kind of things that if we're all talking about working towards 1.0 and we're having these conversations, again, I don't believe you because I don't see it,
Yep.
right? So it just takes
Yep.
the letter from the chairman that we talked about last week and throws it in the trash yet again, right? Or
Yeah. My yeah.
1.0 is multiple years away, like I think most people
Yeah.
expect
Yeah.
it to be, right?
My hope and expectation with the system that they have currently is that, yeah, it'll probably be the case that you won't get a larger
Yeah.
um you won't get a larger hangar until wipes,
Mhm.
or
Or
major
just
patches like,
yeah, major patch changes,
yeah,
even
yeah.
at dot one.
Exactly. But with the expectation in the future that they bring in some sort of system that means the second I buy a larger ship, you know, that happens, and I
Yes,
get that larger hangar.
exactly. That's the kind of clarification I would want to see just from SCL. It'd be like, hey,
Yep.
probably not planned for right now, but is it planned in the very near future? Like, I know we can't ask
Hmm.
when questions or whatever, but so like I'll try to frame it in the way that they tell us when, because it needs to be a priority. If it's not a priority,
Yep.
that's a disappointment in my opinion because I
Yep.
think we're at the point where people are starting to actually want to play Star Citizen
Hmm.
and like players who enjoy video games want to play Star Citizen instead of
Yep.
the other way around, right? So,
Yep. One of my big questions that I hope they do answer in 2 weeks' time is how exactly are they calculating the like time and cost of the auto loading?
yeah.
Because if it's just a straight, for every SCU it costs more, then I actually really like that because it does incentivize me. Well, if I've got 64 SCU of a commodity, I'm probably not going to wait the time and I'm probably not going to spend the money because that's 2 boxes. Sweet. And I really
Exactly.
like that. And I'm hoping that's how they do it.
Yep.
Um,
And it's just a
so
bit
yeah,
of
I want to see that.
exactly and it's just like a little bit of an expense.
Hmm.
I'm more interested in like the cost, like because they went through and did the uh the updates to commodity prices or it's ongoing, like all there's that's why I mentioned that I was disappointed about this episode is because there's so much more around. There's cargo
Yeah.
missions. There's commodity price changes. There's a lot of like economic things that are happening here that
Yep.
were not mentioned in this. And I thought they
Yep.
were going to cover, I was hoping they were going to cover more, but obviously from the description in This Week in Star Citizen, it was very personal hangar focused. Cool.
For sure.
Very,
Yeah.
very excited to hear what the next one. Does anybody know what the next week episode is? He normally talks about it on Star Citizen
Yeah.
Live, and I didn't watch it.
Yeah. Someone told me it's like UI. It's the HUD. So it's the like visors, all that stuff.
Oh,
I
okay.
think it's for next week.
I mean, that's
I will
interesting.
say for this week's this IOC that we're talking about now, there's a big implication there that they touched on but didn't go into more detail about again, which is well, you're buying cargo. Well, you can buy cargo directly into your inventory now, right?
Yeah.
Not directly into a ship, directly into your freight elevator, and leave it there. We also know the economy team is working very closely right now, thanks to monthly reports, with these guys and with the implication of freight elevators. Dynamic prices,
No,
323,
no,
please, please.
you're out of your mind. I know. I'm
Yeah, yeah,
pleasing and
yeah.
praying as much as you,
Yeah.
but do you really like? I hope they don't have to be dynamic.
Yeah, no, no.
Like, can you hotfix them? Like,
Mm,
can it be a hotfix on the server side to change them weekly? Like, it doesn't. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't have to be
yeah,
dynamic, and we obviously can't speculate because there's no information to speculate on.
yeah, exactly.
But
Yeah,
if I just happen to have bought copper at the right price and got lucky or
yeah,
something, that still would be way more fun than what we have now. So
yeah.
I'm with you on that.
Or even
Um,
if they did something like you'll remember it was the first Invictus that I was here for. I think it was the first time that they were doing the Javelin tour, when they introduced the commodity price alerts,
yeah.
and they
Yep.
were like, and I'm talking the first time, not the second time where everyone was making insane money.
Yeah.
Uh, the first time that was introduced, even just like doing that once every couple of weeks with like a random, just say like, hey, here's a law reason why medical supplies are going to be better this week or whatever. And it's like, well, I stocked up on medical supplies the last 3 months.
Well, I mean, if you know
So,
that uh whatever Ninetales lockdown is being called again, like if you know,
Blockade Runner.
yeah,
Yep.
Blockade Runner, like if you know that's coming, you know to gather a lot of Quantanium, right?
Yep.
Or because they're doing Quantanium now. It used to be med supplies, but
Mm,
like you can speculate a little bit. Maybe you gather a bunch of
yep.
maize or something for Jumptown and do that. I
Yep.
don't know. So there might be some opportunities, but I'm with you. I don't think you're like head in the clouds as much as
I don't really think
maybe.
323, but it's like, it's one of those things of like, they could sneak it in maybe.
But
Like, it's one of those things that I would imagine they wouldn't tell us about. They don't. Like they've already told us there's a couple of secret things coming. We know what
yes,
one of those is now, which is creatures, right?
yeah,
Well, at least
assume
presumably,
we can assume, yeah.
yeah. And I would imagine that some interaction there would be a cool little thing to sneak in.
Agreed.
Another quick thing that I remembered just before we stop talking about ISC,
Yeah,
um, there was a bunch of other box types that they
yeah.
displayed.
I'll try and find them. I'll try and find
Yeah,
them.
and in addition, whether it's going to be relevant or not, there was a bunch of mole slash prospector bags that someone had stored in their cargo as well.
Oh, I have like actual information there. You can buy the mole
Okay.
bags in the Evo patch. They're
Oh, sweet.
yeah, you could
Awesome.
buy them. So
Cool.
that's definitely a thing. And then I think we can safely assume that these would be a thing as well. I thought I found them. but
Also,
I
a
guess I
quick look at
didn't.
the Moby-Glass there, which we'll presumably see more about this week. So, yeah.
Yes, yeah, for sure.
Mhm.
Very cool. They changed the name of like the rep one just says rep. These are the new
Oh, it's not
boxes.
called.
No,
It's not called. Oh no, not what was it? Delphi.
Delphi or something. Yeah,
Yeah.
they just called it rep. Oh,
Oh, there's such a
here are
good
the new
name. I like
box
that.
types, I believe. Right? Yeah, there
Yeah,
there
there's
they
a
are.
few. Yeah.
Now they're not box types. They mention it in the video, I think, and you might have touched on this, but I didn't catch it
Mhm.
based off what you were saying. These are inventory boxes. This is where you're
Oh,
going to
so
put
these are your crates that you buy to put stuff in. Sure.
exactly. These are
There
things
is.
you're going to be putting like ship
Yep.
weapons in these and huge
Yep.
quantum drives, stuff like that.
Mhm.
I still don't know the reason to ship those things quite yet, but yeah,
Well, for
that's what
storing
these.
them, 100%, because it's just organization.
Yeah,
right? Like
exactly.
I'll choose a box to have all of my laser repeaters in, a box to have all my ballistic
Exactly.
repeaters in, that sort of thing. There is actually a new box though. Like a new what seems like a commodities box could be a larger drug box. I think it's towards the end of the video, and I think they're putting it onto a 400i, if I recall. I'm not gonna really not gonna remember the exact spot that it is in,
Towards the
but
end, you said?
I think it's towards the end. It kind of looks like they've got like a massive crate of like maize or something that's a lot bigger.
Not
But we
that.
do know that they are working on that stuff anyway, of just having different commodity looking boxes instead of just the exact same one with different colors, which is what we've got now.
You know,
Um,
I do recall the
yeah.
same. I'll try and find it, but I have not yet. It might have
But yeah,
been Caterpillar, but I don't know. Oh,
yeah,
item banks we didn't touch on, but that
true.
kind of uninteresting. It is
It's,
basically
yeah.
that you no longer can press I and get a magical inventory. Now you have to
Mhm.
go to one of these locations to get your guns, ammo, things like that.
Yep.
I don't know how I feel about it that much. I think it is. I think it's fine. It is sacrificing convenience for immersion again,
Hmm.
which it's whatever because they try to make them everywhere, so it's still somewhat convenient. You just can't
Yep.
do the things that we've done in the past where it's like, dude, I forgot my tractor beam. I'm not on a salvage ship. Let me fly close enough to Everus Harbor, and I can just get out
Yep.
of the seat of my ship, and then within its bubble. So there's
Yep.
some convenience that you're losing there, but it's not that much. So
Yep.
that's
As long as they
yeah,
are, like they did say, we'll have them in enough places that it's not going to, worry you too much. As long as that
yep,
actually is the case, cool.
yep.
I have no issues with it.
And they show them in so
In
many
fact,
locations.
yeah.
I imagine it'll be okay.
Yeah, and it solves a problem that we thought was maybe going to happen with freight elevators originally, which was like, well, I'd want one med pen. All right, well, let me go over to my massive freight elevator and
Yeah,
watch one med pen rise up. So,
ride an elevator to get so
yeah,
it's
yeah,
a few less elevator rides, I guess.
yeah.
I spelled success
Yeah.
wrong. I did.
Success,
Deal with it.
success.
Deal with it. More YouTube
Every
comments telling me that
Yeah,
I
I was gonna
said
say
success wrong. There you go. I did
first
it on
20 minutes of the
purpose.
YouTube comments. Yeah.
I did it on purpose. I didn't. I'm
Now,
a bad speller.
I originally thought this was going to be all we were going to talk about for the most part because the next thing that came out was really, really surprising to me, which was the server meshing testing that they've been doing for the last couple of days.
I actually don't think I feel like we could talk about this for a couple minutes and get the callers, but you might be talking a
Yeah,
lot more than I am. Um, how do you
and I didn't
feel?
even get to do it.
Yeah, how do you feel about all of it? I'll give my insights
Yeah.
on some things after you go because I interrupted you a lot last week. Apparently, people were not very happy, so I am giving you
I
as much time as
asked,
possible.
I asked like people that I'm very close with because I
Yeah,
saw a lot of those comments and I was like, "Is that the case?" And they were like, "No."
I think
So
people
I don't
just
know. I
don't
think
like me, but I don't like you either,
that's
so we're good.
true. Get out of my podcast, Mike. Um, so server meshing, yeah. So I have not been able to get into any servers except for one, which I was talking to you, Mike, yesterday about it, where I
Yeah.
got bed stuck.
Hmm.
Someone told me to relog. I have not been able to get into the
Bad
servers
chatter.
since.
Bad
Yeah.
chatter. So I believe you were getting on to one of the larger player pool tests at that point, and
I think it was a 400-person server at the
yeah,
time.
yeah. So the
Yeah.
200's the smallest, and it went up to 800. And
Mhm.
so I experienced that as well. I did the same thing. I logged out. Big mistake. I ended up getting back on that server somehow, and there were more bodies in my bed than just me. There was like so many,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I pressed get up. Now that there were so many people on that server that or that shard that things were getting messed up. Um,
Mhm.
you know what? Before we continue, I do want to make something very clear that where I noticed a lot of people in my chat were confused. When we join a server, it's now called a shard, okay? And a shard will
Yep.
be like number 10, US number 10. A shard is a collection of servers. So there will be
Yep.
400 player shards. There will be 200 player shards. There will be 800 player shards. That means that across all of the servers that are running that shard, there is a maximum of 800 players they can accept. That also
Yep.
means that 800 of those people could be on one server at one time and not all the
Yep.
others. Okay?
Yep. I think
So
we're
that's
just
kind of
going
how it
for,
works.
until like we finish talking about server meshing, like which will be a very long time from now. I think it's just going to be very interchangeable of just saying server as it works in like a traditional video game of just like
Exactly.
regardless of how many physical servers are actually doing the thing, I am logging on to like this one particular thing.
Yeah, I mean, I have to
Um,
bring up
you
Ultima
know.
Online again in this case because this was done in
Mhm.
1997. What we're experiencing now it was in 1990. Like this is not monumental tech. It is monumental at the scale at which we're doing it, and it will
Yeah.
eventually be more monumental when there's the dynamic versions of it, right? What we have now is exactly what I played in Ultima Online in 1997. I joined a shard, which was the Pacific server, and
Mhm.
then every 8 boxes, basically, like there was like big boxes, every 8 boxes there was a server line, and when I crossed
Yep.
it we had very similar experiences to what I'm having now. Slight rubber
Mhm.
banding, little weird things that would happen, but for the most part a smooth experience. That's what happened with me in this. the I
Yep.
think a lot of people are freaking out. Basically what everybody's doing now is finding the server lines and doing weird things around them
Yep.
and going through all this with a fine-tooth comb. The reality is that if missions were working when you're actually playing the game, most of the time you will not be on a server line,
Yeah.
EVAing outside of your ship, shooting, doing all
Exactly.
these weird things.
Yeah,
Now
I
I
was talking to
do,
you a little bit about that yesterday, right? Everyone was
yeah,
doing the like rotation. So essentially, where the server lines are right now is where the planets and moons end. And so because they're rotating and you're always
not
rotating whenever you're in that
necessarily.
space, not necessarily.
No, so that's on the server that I'm on here,
Okay.
that you see on the screen.
Yep.
It depends on the configuration. So if the
Okay.
configuration was the 200, that's what I think
Hmm.
happened. I could not get on a different configuration server that was playable. So I don't
Sure.
know, and I don't want to say
Fair enough.
with 100% certainty. But all of the issues that you're finding is what you're saying. So you can
Yeah.
continue on what you
So
heard about it, and I'll be showing
yeah.
it, I hope.
Yeah. So in those situations where everyone has find that exact line, that's not realistic gameplay. So I feel like it's one of those things where if you are playing the game, this won't come up except for in incredibly rare circumstances.
Yeah.
In which case, that becomes more of a bug fix of like, hey, when you are spooling up these servers, maybe make the thing a little bit wider or whatnot.
You could see
Yeah,
directly on the line, the lighting's going crazy.
yeah,
And then because Crusader is spinning at a very high rate, my bullets will collide with the because actually everything around Crusader is
mhm,
spinning as
yeah,
well. So we are in this like physics grid, even though you're not being, sometimes you cross into the atmosphere of a planet and you
mhm,
start falling down. The physics grid extends way further. It's just not pulling you
yeah,
into the center of the planet or whatever. So when
yeah,
you shoot, when you throw something across the line, it just disappears. And it's because
yep,
it's going into the rotation and going away. Ships are disappearing. All sorts of crazy shit is happening on these server lines. But if you cross the server line in a ship, you barely notice it.
yeah.
The only weird thing that I've had is I think you're going to see me lose my ship right now.
Oh,
But the only thing that I've had is sometimes when I'm QTing across the line, my QT stops, and
mhm,
then I have to spool it up again and go again, right on the
interesting.
line. Yeah, I've
Yeah,
had that fairly consistently. But look, you can see my hull A goes very far away,
yeah, yep,
and then bang, because I went into the
yep,
physics grid and I just floated away. So I
yep.
rotated away from it,
Hmm.
but it also just eventually disappears, I think.
Sure.
Yeah, see, bang,
Yeah,
it just
there
rotated
goes.
away.
It goes from 492 to 52, 522, and then yeah, it
Yeah.
disappears.
So that's essentially the experience that everyone's kind of saying is problematic or whatever, and it
Yeah, but
might be.
it's not. I
It
don't think
might
it's going to
be.
be a big problem.
Yeah, we just don't
Yeah,
know is where we're at right now.
yeah.
I asked my chat, did you consider this test a success? Overwhelmingly, everybody said yes.
Hmm.
I'm always skeptical, right? So my fear is that one of the other tests that I know that they mentioned they wanted to do, because in the letter for the chairman, is they potentially want to have a city be a server, or
Yeah,
location on a planet be a server. What happens then? There are a lot of issues about us crossing
yeah,
lines if we're not dealing with this physics rotation thing, which, by the way, this is on live. So this same experience exists on live. It is not a
yeah.
server
You just
line
don't
thing.
notice it. Yeah.
Exactly. So we just need to have it prove to us that when I shoot across the line, it's good. There are other
Yeah.
videos. There's a Reddit um, video that I saw where
Mhm.
there was a line that somebody found that wasn't crossing these physics grids, and they were
Yep.
shooting across the line at their own ship. The shields were popping, so it is highly likely that this experience is exactly what we're looking for, and it was a massive success. It's
Yep.
just hard to see because of where they chose to put the server lines on the
Mhm.
servers that are more stable, the ones that everyone was
Yep.
able to see. So it's we're a long ways away,
Mhm.
but we are on
So
the right road, I think.
so question for you then, Mike, because
Yeah.
you got to experience it because CRG hate me. Um, and I still haven't figured out anyone else who's had the same bug I have. I might just be unique.
No, there's people
Um,
that are perpetually unable
okay.
to log in. It's not just you.
Yeah. Um, so you were on when you did the majority of your testing, you were on a 200-person server, yeah?
Yes.
So other than the things that they said in the patch notes of like not being enabled, like missions and stuff,
Mhm.
how many just like regular bugs, just good old fashioned Star System bugs did you encounter?
I can't tell because I we would just jump immediately into a ship and go to the server line and start
Okay.
doing the testing thing and just seeing what you can do, what you can't do. Like,
Mm.
I saw a tweet from a prominent creator, I would say, throwing things across the line and watching them
Yep.
disappear. We tractor beamed. I think we successfully tractor beam held an item
Mhm.
across a server, the supporting
Okay.
thing that pops up.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think we supported something across a server. It was very hard to tell. Um,
Okay.
but no, I honestly didn't experience that many other bugs. The only other question people would want to know is like server FPS. It's 15 on the
Yeah.
server that we were playing, and
Did that change when you crossed server lines
yes,
like drastically,
yes,
like more than one or two? Okay. Cool.
yeah. So the planet one sometimes was like at 8, and
Hmm.
sometimes it just depended. But
Yep.
the very fearful and scary thing is 200 people is not enough. 400 people is not enough. And once we hit 400, there were incredible issues. And
Yep.
um, you remember when we had the issues with inventory of there was like a delay and you could see the delay on the inventory to tell you how many
Yeah.
moves
Yeah.
you have left? Guess what's
Yep.
back? That's back. So,
I mean, unsurprising because
yeah,
so much of the tech is obviously about communicating. Like,
yep,
there's just a lot of communication going through the
exactly.
client now. So,
Exactly. So they're
yeah,
they have a lot of cleanup to do. So we only will know if this is a success if they can quickly um, resolve or the data they gathered is fixable and work. You can work with it and things like that, right?
yeah.
I think it's we've made some Formula One references on the show more recently. It's like Mercedes is a team in Formula One, and they don't know
Mm.
what's wrong with their car and why they're doing bad. But
Yeah, yeah,
other teams know the exact direction they need to go to be successful.
yeah,
So all we need to know is if they're Mercedes or if they're Ferrari, and we don't
yeah.
know who they are at the moment. So we'll have to see.
The other thing that I think is important to mention, just because we are talking about the test,
Hmm.
I was kind of curious. Like, it felt early for them to do this. We don't even have a like 323 wave one at the moment, so it felt to me really early for them to do such a massive public test. At least in the language of the post that they had for it, this is still targeted for 4.0. This is not
Yeah, but are you assuming
unless
4.0s?
they change their mind.
Are you
They
assuming
they
4.0s
yeah.
after
They
323 though?
specifically say 4.0.
No, no, I
They
know.
specifically say yeah.
So what I'm asking you is, do you think there's not a 324?
Oh no, there might be. I'm just
Okay,
more saying like it feels early, but that's from CIG's perspective, that's fine. They are deliberately doing it early,
it's a great thing, I
uh,
think.
yeah, to get it ready. So yeah, what the last question I would maybe give to you, because once again you got to experience it, is assume a 4.0 release, and assume more successful testing. Where do you think the numbers may end at for 4.0 for a Pyro and Stanton system? Are we
Oh
just
my
going to be at
god,
200, or do you think we'll get a little bit further?
we have to get a little bit further. It,
I don't think we have to. We have to minimum get 200, but
I think we
like,
minimum have to
you know,
get 4 or 800. I think it's
the Australian servers will be completely empty. I am so horrified for that.
but that's fine because they're going to be empty anyway. The idea here is the minimum has to be way more than what we have now. It's been
Yes.
12 years, and this has been the blocker for 12 years. It has to hit
Yeah.
much higher. Like, I think the 800 to 1,000 has to be a thing. Guys, Lumberyard is an engine that runs an MMO with 3,500 people on it right now,
Mhm.
right? 800 is not asking for very much from that perspective.
Yeah.
Let's be real here. It for 4.0 to be a thing, I think 800 minimum, 1,000 minimum. I know it's apples and oranges, but it's not. It's not because it's an MMO. So it's not. 4.0 has to prove that it's an MMO to me. He asked me the question. It's pure speculation or pure
Yeah.
like
Yeah. For sure.
where I want it to be. It doesn't mean that that's what it has to be, right?
Yeah.
But that's what I would want it to be because I want the whole point of meshing is to prove that they can be an MMO.
Yep.
Can you be an MMO?
I think if
Star Citizen? I don't know yet.
I think if we, I will say, I think if we have like 300-person total servers Stanton to Pyro,
Mhm.
I think it's enough that we have. Well, first off, it means we don't remove the amount of people in any one area, but I think it's also enough that it may end up giving us that extra feel of all those extra people. Because the additional thing on top of that is when you do get to 800, you get to 1,000 people, you then have to really up the density of missions.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, that's the beauty of all this too,
Yeah.
is that they finally get to make the game. All of the missions we've been doing now should be placeholder. All of the missions that we've been doing make no sense in the current, like literally every single one. The amount of
Yeah.
not just up the missions, the amount of places to go on a planet need to be upped.
Yeah.
Now you start talking about cities, towns,
Mhm.
outposts, roads, things like that, because there needs to be more to do, right?
Yep.
Because there's too many people. So it just comes down to now we get to find out if they are good at making a game because they've purposefully, I
Yeah.
think, built within the framework of what we had, which was the 50 to 100 player servers.
Mhm.
Now they have to think about actually designing gameplay for an MMO for the first time ever, and
Yeah.
that's kind of exciting to me if we get there.
Yeah. Cool. No,
Yeah.
I love all that. Awesome. All right.
I don't know. Yeah, I
Let's
think
see what
I'm
our
ready for
community
callers.
thinks, I reckon. Yeah,
Yeah.
let's get some callers in. Remember, guys, we're talking about server meshing, and we're also talking about the ISC. I guess there was an Evo Cardi test this week, wasn't there, for 323?
Nothing burger. Literally a nothing
Oh, okay.
burger. Yeah, it was
Okay.
just stability test.
Sure.
Not even worth mentioning. Honestly.
Fair enough.
All right,
And if you want to call, like, we're
Go
going
ahead.
to get this person in, but if you want to call, make sure you come to SaltEMike, discord.gg/SaltEMike.
Yes.
Got it right. Awesome. And then you can call. Easy. Cool.
Easy
Sorry, continue.
peasy. All right. Well, we're gonna bring in Lightsmith. So Lightsmith, can
Lovely.
you hear
Lightsmith,
us?
how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. How you guys doing?
Great.
Fantastic. What would you like to talk about?
Well, I did want to talk about one thing. You guys were talking about a little bit ago, SaltEMike. You had mentioned the item banks, and
Sure.
one thing I did notice that those are going to kind of bring a pretty big change to is met a player the other day.
Mhm.
Of course, first thing we did, pulled our guns, started shooting as you do in Star Citizen.
Of course.
We both already had our guns out. I had a
Yep.
pistol out, LH86, and he had, I think, an FS9. So he ended up winning. Dropped me down, and we were just in one of those little locations on Daymar somewhere.
Yep.
And he instantly, I went down, no problems. It was a fair fight. I went down, and when he stripped me, I could tell he was just looting me and dragging all of my stuff right into the local inventory.
Yes.
Now,
it's so shitty.
That's the auto magical change right there, I think, is
Yeah.
going to be
Very
pretty big
good
for a lot
point.
of locations.
Very good point.
So,
Nice sneaky
Now,
interaction you
s-
found there. I didn't even think about that.
What
yes,
about
yes,
What about Jumptown? Now, oh my God, yeah, my mind's going like Jumptown.
right.
Void Dude is crying right now because he before Jumptown starts, he puts like a million railguns in each Jumptown and then
Yeah,
dies
yeah.
over and over again and just goes to Jumptown and grabs all the stuff and starts killing people. He can't do
He's
that
gonna have to
anymore.
delete his channel. Rough.
Yeah,
Exactly.
rest in peace, Voidy. 07s, guys. Goodbye.
So this kind of got me thinking. At some of those smaller locations,
Mhm.
there's one or two little rooms. Jumptown, maybe you could call it like 3 or 4 rooms with some hallways. There's some exteriors and things like that.
Hmm.
But what this means is they're gonna have to put these item banks there, and that
Yep.
means you're gonna have to drag a body there. And if you do get a body there or stuff there, and you access it while I'm accessing this item bank, can I also access things around me, or do I have to be holding them? Do they have to be in my backpack?
You're in the
I
loot
imagine
UI.
I'm allowed to hold them. Yeah, I'm wondering how that UI is going to work with the item bank versus having a dead body next to me.
So,
And how quickly
Yeah.
can you strip that dead body?
again, you're in the loot UI. So if we still have the third person inventory thing, you can move around and drag things into the boxes in the loot UI. So it's possible
Oh,
that you'll be able
gotcha.
to pull some things,
Okay.
but I don't think you have ever been able to pull a body in that way. So it works more for things like rock mining and stuff like that. Like you're able to
Mhm.
pick up gems and put them in, or some ammo and stuff on the ground. So I think what we're gonna need to do now is grab a bunch of stuff, put it in our backpack, and then do that. But one thing I will say is I think you can guarantee that there will not be item banks at places like Jumptown or any place that aren't green zones. I think that you
Ooh,
are going to have to be prepared at those locations, not
yep.
able
And
to prepare
that's going
yourself
to be a
at the
pretty
location.
big change.
Yeah.
It will, however, I do think with that in mind, I do think the new distribution centers probably will have that, just because they're such large and like
Ah,
core areas. So while we might lose them in those other areas, that we're sort of moving away from those types of locations anyway. So it
Mm.
may not impact us as much as we might think.
I see somebody in chat that's a little confused. They said, so local inventory will be gone at outposts. First off, we don't know. Second,
Yeah.
I'm making an assumption. Third, my assumption is very well informed that the idea is to not have inventories at locations that are dangerous.
Yeah. So
So,
like where
yeah.
you're getting commodities, there should still be stuff like that. So like if you go to
yeah.
if you go to where you end up, you're buying your diamond to go trade and stuff, that stuff should have that. So
Exactly.
that'll
Yeah.
be okay. Yeah.
But if you're going
I would
to
presume if there's a place to purchase things, there's an item bank somewhere nearby.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
necessarily. So here's the
Sure.
Okay.
perfect example that I want to bring up that I think a lot of people abused for finding the Vandal Mask, things like that. Do you guys know Bountiful Harvest on Daymar? Bountiful Harvest on Daymar has no
Yeah.
armistice zone, so you are free to fight. It was a place that I would go and I would loot guns for. It was one of my favorite gun looting spots when we were doing a lot of gun running. Those
Mhm.
locations should not have inventories on them because it takes the risk away
No.
completely. And it's my understanding that that was not intentional for them to be there. They just didn't have the means to get rid of them or something like that. This is the
Sure.
means. If you have to go to a physical location and that location is not there, then bang, the means have just happened. So it's my understanding that that was never a design intention. So think Jumptown, think some of these other locations. They are not intentionally designed to have them. Any drug lab, things like that. You can
Yep.
maybe assume that they would not have those items there, and that creates the risk and reward of going to these locations for players like pirates, and for the risk for players like traders, things like that, right? So that
Yeah.
is the hope there.
In addition to that, I will just say places that you can buy commodities right now. There was a sneak peek. I want to say 2 weeks ago, but the timing might not be right.
Freight
Where they
elevator.
essentially showed they showed a freight elevator at an
Yep.
outpost. I imagine any place they're putting freight elevators will also have
Yeah.
those kiosks.
I don't know.
The
Drugs.
thing is though, well, that's what I'm saying. If you're already buying massive things of cargo, I would imagine that they would have the ability for you to store other things at that location. If you can store
True.
other things at that location, then you would want to have one of those containers. But we have an SEL Q&A coming up in 2 weeks' time, so
Yep.
let's
Lots of
make sure we ask that.
Yeah, lots of
I'm
questions
gonna
on that.
submit some questions. I imagine they're gonna get flooded with lots of questions. So let's hope they
Yep.
get through plenty of them as well.
Yeah, let's hope they don't take
yeah.
the shitty ones and take some actual gameplay related ones.
So, guys, we're going to start off
was
with what
happy-
is cargo?
Yeah. What is cargo? Was happy to hear them sneak in the little workaround there during the ISC where they're like, if you want, you can call up your little ships or your ground vehicles and just move
we
them
didn't
to
touch
the
on that.
side. I
Yeah.
really liked that because they did say you won't be able to bring up your land vehicles up the smaller freight elevators within your hangar anymore. So, but it's still looks like there's plenty enough space to even get like some C8Rs and some tumbrils and what have you to the side, and you can load those right up.
I think you're going to be able to get everything, even in the small hangar potentially. Although, if you have a small hangar, it wouldn't even make sense because you wouldn't have a ship big enough
How are you
to
going to
store
carry
them.
it out?
But yeah, so it is it's a great workaround, I think. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I was happy to hear that because it'll be nice to have a C8R just slightly off to the side for like a little quick hit med bed when you need it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I guess you could just leave it. You could just leave it in your hangar,
Yeah.
right? Theoretically, you
well,
just
right.
leave it off to the side always. Assuming no bugs, the way that they've talked about it, yeah, as long as it fits somewhere, it should be able to stay there.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I'm excited about is just being able to
Yeah.
leave a couple of things around. I'm actually like Mike, you've mentioned a lot more questions than answers maybe, but I just kind of want to know about like what's going to happen with my stuff if I lay a bunch of crap around, a couple of land vehicles, my C8R just in case, and then let's say I do buy a new vehicle and they do upgrade your hangar. I think my concern would be there is what happened to all my stuff I put there. Are you just gonna auto slide that in my inventory for me?
Yeah.
Does it disappear?
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah, I was talking about this to Nick earlier this week. Once again, this is one of those questions that we want in the Q&A,
answer. Yeah.
but the assumption would be if they do find a solution, it'll probably just be everything's back in your whatever was in there is now in your inventory, and you just have to take it out again.
Yep.
That's I think the common sense answer and solution to that problem.
Yeah. Somebody in the Twitch chat said when you buy a new house, you got to redecorate.
They take all your stuff when you buy a new house from your old one. You don't get it back.
No,
That's
if
taxes.
you lose the stuff, it's a bug, right? It's obviously not intentional.
That probably.
Yeah.
I'm also
I
curious
did
to
not
see
think
what
we would
happens
talk
if-
about the elevators as much, but I think this has been really interesting so far. I just wanted to say that. So thank you, Lightsmith, for shining the light on some things that maybe we didn't.
Yeah.
Pun
bringing
intended.
the light. Well, here's a little light. I think this is an important thing because they showed in the ISC, they showed the ship approaching the hangar, and I was hoping they wouldn't cut away, but they did. I want to know what it looks like when the door opens and I see my stuff and I'm going to land in. What happens if some jerk takes his like razor full speed and flies into my pile of pledge gear?
Griefers.
Yes. Is
think
he
we're
even
gonna-
allowed in there? Is there a magical invisible wall or Mistis that will stop him? That's a big worry.
There's a great solution, and it's called splines. CIG bring back splines. Come on, you know you want to.
That or there's a potential solution for reputation. Like they may be able to do it once, but not twice, because they might not even be
'cause that's
allowed
also-
near the area.
Yeah.
Does that also break their terms of pad ramming for griefing?
I mean, that is 100% griefing.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I don't even think it's a
So that
question.
would be a bannable.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, I don't know how they'll handle it, but it is 100% griefing. And if however they decide the punishment, they'll decide. But it should be a punishable defense. I'm not going to say what kind of punishment it should be. That'll be up to them. But there is no way that is not a bannable offense or a punishable defense, I should say.
It is still that
Now-
kind of thing that'll happen in every, like that sort of thing will always happen in every video game though. So it's one of those things that you can't just have as like a bannable offense. There needs to be some sort of thing stopping it from happening.
They need to have a gameplay solution for it, is what you mean,
exactly,
right?
yeah.
I agree,
Yeah.
100%. 100%.
I kind of thought of one. They kind of
Mhm.
already have it in the game. The only ship that is allowed into your hangar when the doors open is the ship that activates auto land. They could say that you're only allowed to land in your personal hangar using auto land. You can land in every other hangar and every other pad manually, but yours. This will also allow griefers to not get in, and this could allow you to align your ship perfectly so that it can go in and out, so you're not messing with it. Maybe.
I like it's a solution, but I also am now seeing the spectrum threads of people complaining that they're not able to land in their own
Yeah.
hangars without auto landing.
Yeah, I mean, the question
Yeah.
is, it's an instance. How does the other player even see the instance? I see that in Twitch chat as well.
Yeah.
They,
Yeah. What do I see when the doors open and I go to land?
yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
they may have shown you like the perspective of a party member, maybe.
Do
Yeah, that's
does
true.
have we ever seen anything in CIG tech wise that has been able to enforce like invisible walls on some players and not others? Has that ever been a thing?
No,
Hmm.
not that I'm
Okay.
aware of.
If
No, I don't think
if that
so.
is possible, then you just do that, right? But
Yeah.
I have no idea if we can do that in this engine. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, technically, they can determine who's a bad guy and a good guy, and they could just say that if you go in that hangar, you insta die. They could do that too.
And then you
Yeah.
salvage all their stuff inside your hangar.
Yeah. Yeah, get some free stuff. Oh, that'd be cool.
But yeah, I don't know. Like
Or
we
you
have
get
a few more
insta sent to
callers.
jail.
We have a few more callers. So did you want to touch on anything else? I don't want to keep anybody waiting on the line too long. But it's been a good call, obviously.
No,
I've
I think
enjoyed
server meshing went well. I got in a 200-person server. I had some
Nice.
simple bugs like some other people ran into. That was fun. I'm just excited for 323 hangars to come here. I think this is the next big update that we all need. It's going to help refresh the community, I feel like.
Yep. This is gonna be if this is a successful patch launch. Oh man. Oh man, it's gonna be a crazy year.
It'll be nice.
Yeah.
It will be nice. That's for sure. Well, all right, Light. I guess we'll let you go. But thank you for again shining some light on some cool stuff that we may not have noticed.
Yeah.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
All right, bro.
No worries. Have a good one.
Bye now.
Later.
All right. So that was Light, and then we have Karinos or Luke. I'm gonna go with Luke. Luke, can you hear us?
Luke, how you doing?
Hello. Yes,
Hey.
very well, very well. I think this is the first time I've actually spoken. Well, that's the call, funny enough, but I've been watching along with many others for a long time.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's kind of alluding to a lot of things that you've touched on a little bit earlier with this stream, with obviously what you've experienced in the test of the server machine. It's fantastic that it's actually starting to gather pace now. I think everybody's really excited to see that. I could wax lyrical and stand on a soapbox, but I don't want to because a lot of callers and Micah's family business he wants to be involved, which is fair.
You
enough.
got some time.
So I'll try and make it short.
Yeah.
Oh, good. What I will say is that I think that we're addressing server meshing a little bit as a silver bullet. And in my opinion, I think server meshing doesn't fix what we think it fixes. It helps cope with the scenario of the game's too heavy and the server's too weak.
Yep.
Case in point, we're stuck at about 100 players on a server and they barely work. And with what Mike was talking about, you were talking about earlier, is you haven't really seen an 800 server on the server meshing tested yet. It seems to be a bit unstable. And
a bit is
Just a
an
bit.
understatement.
yeah. And 200 seems to be like what you've experienced the most. And that doesn't surprise me too much. You've got one server, or rather two servers, working together in a shard. And to bring a very long story, it's one of those, I've got to tell a story to come back to the beginning. But it's starting to make sense while they're starting to talk about a Star Citizen 1.0 also. Because if you have, for example, a full release, a beta, a 1.0, whatever, you're going to have a lot of players playing Star Citizen. You're going to have us. You're going to have a lot more smarter people that have stayed on the sidelines, haven't invested, but they will jump on. And then you'll have everybody else that play Grand Theft Auto, etc., the big game. They will also join. How many people that'll be, we don't know. If you take Baldur's Gate 3, for example, about 1 million players concurrently, possibly, maybe more, maybe less. It doesn't matter. Because server meshing doesn't make servers run faster. it just helps strap them together to cope with the load. So you're still going to need a whole load of servers to deal with 1 million players at the same time.
Of
And
course. Yeah.
what we've got at the moment is the beginnings of a lot of hard work by the devs. And I think one thing that I want to push forward more than anything else is we're going to have to be patient. We're
Yeah,
going to have to be
100%.
so patient with this because we've already got it working to a degree, but 800 players, good luck, it just doesn't work. But that's because they're incrementally testing these things.
Yeah, it doesn't
And
work on
they're,
the first day that we had a public test for it.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah,
And
Right?
we can't be
yeah,
doomy about that too much, right?
Yeah.
no, exactly. And they're going to be figuring out things like diminishing returns. If they add more servers, how that affects server FPS. Because as Mike said, we were still about 8 or 15 server FPS. We want it higher. How much higher? Don't know. Nobody
30.
knows.
30.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
30,
Whatever your
60.
target goal
I mean,
is, that's what it needs to be.
yeah. And the thing that is a dark horse amongst the things that they've got to test, and it's really difficult what they've got to test, is emulation. Because the devs on many times have said it's not the player count that's weighing down the servers, it's the emulation, which makes sense. They're emulating a heck of a lot.
Yeah.
But they don't know how heavy that emulation is. They can't because that's reliant on systems that aren't in the game yet. Gameplay loops. But more importantly, and this is something that I think was it you, Croncy, that mentioned a couple of minutes ago,
Sure, I'll
was
take
that
credit.
there's. He just said where is the density of this stuff?
Like we'll
Because there's
need more density. Yeah.
and
A lot of things have to scale up with player count to
exactly,
make
yeah.
it still a good experience. Essentially.
Or you don't need density and you need to provide the tools, better sandbox tools. There's that
Yeah.
as well.
Yes.
Because I don't think Star Citizen was ever intended to be World of Warcraft. So
No.
the idea here is sandbox tools. I go to a random place on that moon on the screen, and there's shit to do that I can
Mhm.
do, right? So that's that.
Yeah.
What that shit is does not exist at the moment. So that still goes exactly with what Croncy says is, well, we need more density than what we have now because there is
Yeah.
nothing on that moon except for a few rocks, right?
Yeah. And I think that's almost certain to happen because Chris's vision is that we log on and we spend a bulk of our session on that planet and its adjacent moons.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to be a big event to go to another planet, an even bigger event to go from, to Pyro.
Mm-hmm.
And in order to facilitate this, we're going to need a heck of a lot more stuff to do.
Yeah.
And this is a bit of a citation needed. I remember hearing it somewhere. You'll be able to correct me. You guys are better than I on this. That the quantum travel is artificially faster than it should be. So we can bounce around Stanton. So we've got things to do because the density is too low. But the more density you put in, the more points of interest, the heavier the emulation goes. So I think we're going to have a compounding issue here where players will expect Star Citizen Beta, version 1.0, whatever it is, whenever it releases, doesn't even matter what systems are in the game, they will want to join. They will want to play. And there will be a humongous uptick in players. And the question will be, will the devs and will Star Citizen be able to figure out well before time the amount of servers they need to deal with that? Because the ratio we got at the moment is 1 server to 100 players. If you've got 1 million players, that's 10,000 servers.
Yeah.
And if you take a best case or worst case, it's a lot of servers.
Well, so yeah, CIG finally got to experience that a little bit last year with the launch of 318. A big reason, like there was obviously bugs and there was issues with it going live, but it was also one of the first times that Star Citizen had like an actual insane amount of people trying to log in at once. Right? This is the kind of issue that every MMO, every time it releases or has like a big patch, has to sort out is where do we put our resources and do we go super ham day one so that no one has issues and then lose a crap ton of money, or do we, like how do we solve those issues?
Yeah, like 4.0 launch is going to be
Yeah.
a shit show no matter what. There's no
100%.
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah,
There's
because
no stopping that.
I mentioned, I mentioned at the start, like why I think they might have start murmuring a 1.0 version of the game, because that's alluding to a full release kind of mentality. Whether it truly is or not doesn't matter. But the mentality that this game is now Go. And that allows them to then say, well, the game is Go. We want you to pay 20 or $10 a month to play the game now, which we obviously don't have at the moment, and nobody's really talked about it. And I think that will need to happen at some point to facilitate getting so many servers, because we've kind of reached peak citizen in a way. The amount of people buying more stuff and ships is starting to plateau, and it could be the beginnings of them, like,
I
putting
am
those
going to push
foundations
back on that
before.
really quickly.
That'll
I am
never
gonna push back
happen.
on that really quickly. It hasn't plateaued. There was an instance last year where the new player count plateaued a little bit, and that's when we saw a slower increase in funding. Right, it didn't
Yeah.
go down at all. Really, it still went up, but it was a slower increase. That was almost entirely a result of less new players coming into the game. So, yeah, like just that specific sentence, I just want to push back on.
Oh, that's good. I mean, that's good. That means they've got less of a worry about what I've just said then.
I don't
And
think
that
they'll
is a
ever
good thing
do a
overall.
submodel either, because
Yeah.
you've
I
had
think it'll be tough too.
people back for the game's release and for you to have access to it. How will they handle it? There's so many problems if that's the case.
And they have other ways to fund the game that they won't need that for the extra money. You know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah.
there are other avenues that won't might anger the community, but not enough to make them stop playing. So that's where they'll go.
Yeah, I think that's what we're all hoping as well, to be honest. I mean, you're right saying that I'm being a little bit doomish, but I think that's probably why they're starting to mumble a 1.0 rather than a 4.0 or 5.0. I think they're trying to formulate that once server meshing is in, and they've really had to put down a lot of work, taking all the infrastructure probably in their heads, that is the next phase of Star Citizen, because the hardware that's going to be needed for that is going to be colossal, I think.
Yeah, but I think that the time between 4.0 and 1.0 is a lot fucking longer than everybody is making it out to be at the moment. I think it is it won't be as long as 3.0 to 4.0, but it is going to be a long time between 4.0 and 1.0. And that is what everybody they put 4.0 and 1.0 in the same letter. And that is something I really wanted to hammer home for people is I'm not being doomed. This is all very good things. Yet, I think it is implying that these things are very close to each other without ever saying it. And because people will just make that connection. And it is not a connection. There is a distance between those two things that is incredibly far and a lot of work to do between 4.0. 4.0, all of that means is that we are jumping from one system to another, or that multiple pieces of one star system it is a tech hurdle. It is not a game at that point.
I want to touch on one quick thing because we didn't talk about it in our sort of like overview of the week that is related to that.
And then
we had a roadmap
with Luke,
roundup,
by the way, because I got about 30 minutes left and 3 callers. I'd love to give them 10 minutes each.
Yeah,
With
I'll go through
pleasure.
this
Thank
really
you very
quick.
much.
We had a roadmap roundup this week that they talked about, a couple of things being committed. The language that Jake used in that roadmap roundup in regards to the 4.0 roadmap thing that they were talking about in the letter from the chairman makes it sound like we will be getting that roadmap a little bit earlier than I had originally thought, which was going to be CitizenCon. It sounds like that's going to be something coming out in the next few months. That's all. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well,
thank you very much. Pleasure.
Yeah, Luke, thank you. It was a really good call. Appreciate it, and some good insights and everything. Sorry for cutting.
Sorry to take up your time.
Yeah.
Don't worry. Cheers, guys. See you later.
Cheers.
Thank you very much.
Long-time listener, first-time caller. We love those. Those are fun. Now we have High Lord. Hi, Lord. Can you hear us?
Hi, Lord. How you doing?
Hello there.
Hey,
Howdy.
everyone's mic's
What would you like to
working
talk
and
about?
everything's great today. It's good.
Good. So I want to start with persistent hangers, if that's okay with you, gents.
That's
Please.
good.
A couple of thoughts on persistent hangers is how often do you actually visit your spawn location? As just when you're flying around and playing games.
It's going to be a lot more now.
Depends.
Never, but it's going to be a lot more now.
Like, it's a very good concept that they're putting in. Yep, at your spawn location, you're going to have a home hangar that's yours to customize. However, like it's half an idea. I feel like why not
Agreed.
implement this in more locations that you can potentially purchase hangars at, or rent them from a location. That'll give you a SU, not SU, AUEC sync going into it, so people are then inclined to generate capital, spend the capital in renting a location, especially traders, because they're the ones who are going to be using the system and that ability a lot more than any of us.
I
I mean, that
think,
genuinely just sounds like a great idea. Like,
and it generally sounds like the
you know,
direction that they've always wanted to go. We have multiple
yeah,
hangars and on our accounts in a lot of people's cases with different purchase ships, and that will cover the hangar fees for these things, or maybe you'll get additional hangar fees, whatever. It is a thing that is possible, but we can't look at 323 and go, why didn't they do the 1.0 version of hangars? They're doing the 3.23 version of hangars. Like, your idea
yeah.
is what most people, I think, have in their head as the plan for hangars in the future, that I could have a hangar at Everus Harbor and that could be my home. I don't just have one necessarily. If I have more,
Yeah.
there hopefully will be a cost associated with that.
Yeah.
Especially when we get into the like, I think it's reasonable to us. Well, I mean, once again, this is a thing to just push at the devs and make sure that they
Yeah.
do clarify this stuff.
I want it at a station.
yeah.
I don't just want it at a planet.
Yeah, exactly. And imagine when we do get to the stage where, all right, cool, we've got 2 systems. Well, it's a really annoying, boring thing to try to get to my home location when I'm all the way in Pyro. Now imagine that I'm at minimum 5 jumps away in years' time, but like very, very far away. Well, now it's just, it becomes bad gameplay to only have that one home. So it's
Yeah.
also kind of an inevitability that stuff will happen.
Yeah, I mean, as a
Yeah.
miner, don't you want your home location to be at a refinery? Like, why would I want it to be
sure.
on a
Yeah.
planet, you know?
Or
I
look
want
at
to store
Pyro
all my
isn't
stuff
the only.
there. Sorry, go ahead.
If you look at Pyro, isn't the only spawns for Pyro in space stations?
Yeah. Well, those
Yeah,
will be
means-
home
yeah.
locations. Those will be considered home locations
So-
in Pyro, right? So it's doable
Yeah.
on a station, obviously.
It's already more advantageous to potentially, if you are spawning in Pyro, because you are spawning on a station, you don't have that atmosphere, get in, get out, which you do on everything in Stanton, pretty much that you spawn at. But in my opinion, I would have preferred to potentially see more spawn locations in Stanton that you could choose, not just Lorville, Orison, etc. Potentially, you could then choose the station in certain places like Grimhex. It's the home for pirates. Why can't the pirates have a Grimhex hangar as their home base, for example?
Yeah, but we
Currently.
need to get there.
Yeah.
Why we can't have it currently
Yeah.
is because we don't have persistent hangars yet. I think like Croncy said, this is the thing that we have as a community need to be better about with them, and I think it's holding their feet to the fire and saying, you're not done yet. You didn't do it.
Yeah.
Right? It's not done. There's more to do here, and we need this in a patch soon. It is not good enough to deliver it just as a home at a home location. Good job, like claps, like praise, but there's more to do. Because what CIG tends to do is they will tip their hat to us and say, we did it, boys, and they'll move on to the next job. And unfortunately, in this case, you're absolutely right, especially with the reputation changes that are coming and all these things. The job isn't done yet. Not with these at all. Like, these are 0.5 or tier. Like, we are not at a tier that is done if you can't choose Grimhex as your location as a starting point. I agree, but there's also the idea of Pyro being the actual place for pirates and not necessarily Grim. So there's also that.
Yeah,
But
I was
Very
going to
true.
say, so like you can have those home locations on planets presumably really easily, because I would imagine the transition from it looking like a real hangar when you fly down there and it's there into that then, instancing out or whatever. When you've got the entire depth of the planet to hide what is going on there, that's awesome. When you've only got a station which you can see the full 360 degrees of, I imagine there's going to be some like weird interaction stuff that could happen there.
it's a good
So I
point,
would
too.
still want it to happen. I would still want those hangars to be instanced. I wonder if there's maybe an issue towards that. And even then, like right now in a theoretical 323, what is the actual difference between a home and going to a station? Because you can still set your spawn at those stations. The only difference is decorating your hangar.
That's an SEL
That's it.
question. That's an SEL
So,
question for
yeah.
sure, because
Fair.
it's something they did not address in the video. Like, what is running cargo? What is interacting with the hangar going to be like? on a station that I don't own. What does that mean? What changes did you make there? That's one of the questions I want to ask for sure. I can't wait
It
for
may
this
not be a
thread to go
problem.
up. There's going to be like 50 SaltEMike posts on that one because I have so many questions. But go ahead, High Lord. What
Yeah.
else you want to chat about?
Cool, lovely. So yeah, the other thing was it's a bit of an edge case scenario that I thought up when we just sat here. Was that for people who pledged for the game and have spent over $1,000 on the game, at a certain point in time, they got given as part of their concierge a game package tied to their concierge account.
Yep.
Which technically means you could then melt all of your ships and then not have any ships. When loading in, what hangar does it give you? Does it give you a small hangar or does it just break?
Two things. One, I completely forgot that was possible. So now
Yeah.
my no ship hardcore run I can do
Yes.
and actually force myself not to have ships.
You don't have a home. You're a vagabond. Enjoy.
Yeah, it's interesting. I imagine, I hope that will actually not impact anyone. But it'd be a very funny corner case for me to just test and then
Yes.
rebuy all my ships with store credit afterwards.
Yeah.
Yes. And then, like, yeah, it's like not the chance to not have a home hangar is like, well, I just don't have anywhere to store my things. And then what do you decorate? Well, to be fair, if you do have a hangar, what do we
Ooh.
now decorate it with? We don't have furniture. We just have random boxes that you can buy and then scatter around the location.
Mhm.
So we can't decorate it like they've got in SEL where they were showing off the hangars with all their
marketing team
presets.
has a massive boner. That's what you.
Yeah.
That's
and like
what's happening right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then with our like containers that we can buy and then put into these locations, it'd be nice to be able to customize them or at least name them, so you know, okay, what's in this one without having to then wait,
Yes.
load into the looting screen, which can take 2 minutes at sometimes, depending on the server health.
When
Like,
did
being
you
able to
back
hover
the
over it
game,
and
High
see
Lord? Sorry to interrupt, but when did
Oh,
you back the game before we move on from the decoration side?
2016, I
Hangar
think.
flare was still a thing back then, I believe. So there's like a liquor container, there's a jukebox, there's a few things you can decorate. I don't know if they work. There's like
Yeah,
all
the only
sorts of
things I believe that
plants.
work like right now are like the banners that we got recently. You can put
Yeah.
them
Yeah.
in your habs.
Yeah. So
No,
there's
I'm aware there's
things,
like some,
but
yeah,
there's no
but then
couches.
that
That's for sure.
there's like nothing
Yes.
that well there's very few things that they've shown from the Inside Star system that you can actually put in them, bar some
Yeah.
things that they got so over the last like what 6 years, 8 years, however long it's been now, that
Yeah.
they've like slowly accumulated into their hangars. But for
Yeah.
new people, it's like, okay, we spawned in. Currently, I have a new ship and a empty box of a hangar. Cool.
Yeah.
And then in the actual Inside Star system, they did mention that you could move the ground vehicles off to the sides. Can you do that with Pisces for the ships like the Carrack or other ships that you can load ships into?
The assumption would be
or
yes,
because-
because it just seems like a side limitation here. I think there's a perfect
They
example
actually
of
they do talk about that you would be able to get multiple ships out at once, kind of, by going like, yeah, get one ship out, get a second ship out, because they talk about it with like, you know, you could do things with your party and get
Yeah.
them to take the ships out.
They
as well,
worded that as you can spawn the ship, flight out, and then
Yeah. Oh,
spawn
sure.
another ship.
So, for
So,
example, look at how
hopefully-
much room. I don't know if you can see, because you can. You're in the Discord
Yeah.
call, so you could definitely see this.
Yep.
Look at how much room on the side is here, and this is not a large hangar. So a
Yeah.
Pisces will absolutely fit in this area. You put it to the side, launch the next ship up. Carrack, put the Pisces inside the Carrack. So
Yeah,
I
I
think
guess
I'm
the
hoping
question
that there's
there
enough-
is, would it count
there's
as
enough-
trespassing or something? Like
Yeah.
how is it mechanically working?
Oh, I would assume
Yeah,
no,
no,
not
definitely.
at all. But we'll have to
So
see.
it's just fingers crossed that you can do all your stuff internally in the hangar and drive things around and fly things around inside the hangar and like
Yeah.
position it where you need to.
Yeah.
So
That'd be
fingers crossed that does all work out.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then last point that I want to talk about was potentially server meshing.
Mm-hmm.
Server meshing rather. So you've already mentioned the edge cases of on the barrier or the border for servers, or the inside the shard inside the servers. You then have these issues when they're potentially adding more servers into the static server meshing, because they've already mentioned they want one in planets. They want potentially more locations to be their own separate server. So like Lorville might be its own server inside of Hurston, which is then inside of Stanton, etc. Will that then make potentially more edge cases or make the issues with edge cases more apparent the more servers that they bring out, and then maybe that impacts gameplay that way. So I know the ones are quite hard to find currently because they're 100 kilometers away from the atmosphere. But as they add in more servers, does that then make it more prevalent, the issues?
I would imagine so. And then it then just becomes an instance of, all right, cool. What are the bug fixes now?
We
And
don't-
continue on like that, right?
We just don't know, because all of the
Mm.
issues that people are calling out are due to this physics grid thing and are literally on live. So we don't. A lot of people don't know, because again, I've seen some videos that show what we saw at CitizenCon, and then I've experienced what I've experienced, and it was always the physics thing. So it is like, I mean, there's obvious issues. Like if you guys didn't notice, because it was quite quick, all the ships just disappeared when we were at Cellen randomly. Like that server crashed that they were on. So there's obvious weird shit that could happen. But that might have been way more due to instability. It is so hard to tell. And I think we need a few more tests before we can actually be like, they did it or they didn't. And I think some people are standing on either side of that conversation instead of sitting in the middle and just watching it happen. You know, we don't know yet. So there's a lot of things that I'm unsure about, because the issues that I experienced were unrelated to
and like we just need to wait and see what happens when they add in the ships, like a server as a ship, like they're recording out the Idris, they want to make it its own server when you're in it, or like the larger ships in that class. How does that one work? Boarding, because then you're moving a server.
CIG
it's
says
all
a
over
lot
the
of
place.
things. So I am not even thinking about that bullshit. Like again, reading it's like again reading the letter from the chairman, and if you're one of the believers, God bless you, but you're insane.
No. It's like 2030, maybe for wave like 5.0.
Yeah.
But they've like, again, they're doing this thing of like, 1.0, we're going to pretend that maybe the one after 4.0. No, it's not going to be the next major one. There'll be a 5.0, then a 6.0, and then maybe at the like 2030 mark, we're then looking at something further. But I don't see anything anytime soon based on the last set of progress. But hopefully with this like milestone out the way, they can actually start progressing on bits, but we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, I do want to say, like, the thing that is coming in 3.23 is replication layer, right? All those ships that disappeared on the screen in the example that I showed, someone in our party found them hours later. So replication layer is working very, very well. But obviously there was tons of instability with other things. So, you know, just for the near future, things very good. For the near future on server meshing, probably not that good.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
Yeah, no, definitely. We'll have to wait and see when it's live, then we'll have to readdress these like topics again.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I still think it's one of those things though, like with all of that in mind, we haven't seen this before, and it worked somewhat, and that is still such a massive push. It is such a massive milestone, even seeing it with the crazy amount of bugs that we had with 800 players.
All I gotta say is just wait till you guys get, like, you unfortunately all had to do a test in Stanton. We did the initial test jumping from one place to another, and that is a situation where a lot of these edge cases that everybody's seeing, we didn't experience because the jump point blocks it very more easily, right? You're always in a ship, you're not getting out of a ship, so on and so forth. So there was a lot of things that were preventing you from seeing the problems, and it was amazing, right? It felt monumental, where this feels less monumental because it's way easier to fuck with it. So that's sort of where we're at right now. Is I think when they do the pyro jump for you guys, you're gonna feel a little bit more positive maybe than you feel right now. But we'll have to see. But yeah, High Lord, I would say like 30 seconds or whatever, if you want to touch on anything else real quick before we get to somebody else.
That'll be everything. Thank you very much for your time, Vince, and have a good rest of the day.
Yeah, man. Thanks for calling in.
You too. Thank you very much.
Bye for now.
Appreciate it. All right. Final caller, Gail for the day.
Gail, how you doing?
Gail.
Hey, thanks for doing this show. I've been a long-time listener, first time on the podcast.
I think it's Croncy, man. Everybody feels like they have a safety net from me, maybe, and they're all calling in now. Croncy makes a big difference. Exactly.
Well, I love you, Croncy, but to be honest, it's the server meshing for me that's hyping me up again for Star Citizen.
Okay.
I've been a backer. I think I backed in 2016 in my
Mhm.
little Aurora Island that I still have. I haven't bought anything else, but I played and I thought I was so hyped. And then I looked at, it's you play, and then you've seen everything there was to see. And then I was like, well, I'll be back when they do server meshing, and now I'm back. I didn't expect to wait that long, but I'm really happy they're finally doing it.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. And
just think
really
2 years ago
yeah.
where we were. Think 318 where we were, and think where we are now. The conversations are so different, just so
Yeah.
different.
We see the light at the end of the tunnel. We see the finish line finally.
I jumped through the tunnel.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it makes you realize like what have they been thinking the entire time as well, right? Like you see, you've touched on this a couple times on the podcast already, but you see the missions, you see the locations, you see the space stations, the spawning hubs, the metro stations. You see like every part of the world they've been building. And what were they thinking? Like, how is this ever going to scale to the scale they've been envisioning since the beginning? And it's also a bit worrying now that you see the pieces fall together and you realize, okay, now like how much of this is going to need to be redone from scratch?
Yeah, I think especially for maybe the last 3 years, a lot of the locations, a lot of the in-game features that we've been getting seem like they scale great. Like they seem like they're going to work pretty well going into, having all these extra people. And so obviously there was some sort of situation a couple of years back where they were like, well, if we are going to actually future-proof this stuff for the stuff we're doing in the back end, we've got to change some things. So I'm happy they're doing that at least, right? Like one example is we were talking about, well, there's not enough missions, not enough locations. Cool. In 323, we're literally getting a bunch of locations that are amazing for scaling, and they tons of multiple missions at the same location. We're getting a bunch of them. That sort of stuff ends up immediately minimizing that thing. So as long as that continues, awesome. But it's great to see that. It's great to see that the possibility of releasing, a 4.0 with a bunch more people hopefully won't result in, no one being able to do anything.
Yeah, for sure.
But I still, at the risk of being SaltEMike answering that one, but I still think there's going to be a lot of pain points. Well, some of it is going to scale, a lot of it we're going to discover like really doesn't, and then maybe
sure.
if we
I
temper
was
the
in
expectations, then I think it's going to be fine.
I was in a 97 person medbed queue.
Yeah, I've seen some
needs to
people,
scale.
multiple
That's
people
the
spawning in the
solution.
same bed as well.
Good.
Like
I couldn't die. Okay, my person on the server meshing test. This is my character state. 0 health, 0 food, 0 water. When I came through the queue, and all 97 people, that's why there's a queue. I am in a bed with 0 health. I cannot backspace. I cannot use I cannot do anything. I had to recopy. I was done.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that was with
Sounds like
the
a
server
great
meshing
issue.
test, right?
That was with the 800 player server meshing test.
Yeah.
I was at Orison. Everything was delayed so much. I had to jump out of the bed. It took 4 minutes to get me out of the bed. And then I come out of the window instead of out of the bed. I go out the other side. I have to jump off the 15-story building. I land on my feet, survive. Then 4 minutes later, die because the server realized I died.
See,
then
but
I was in a 97 player queue.
a lot of that is bugs, though, right? Like,
no, that's not bugs. That's server delay.
That is bugs.
I mean, unless you equate the same.
Well,
so
I mean,
many
like
people causing the server to delay.
Yeah, for sure. But like in terms of how the mechanics go, that's with scaling, I don't really think that comes into it. What does come into it is, let's use an example like Siege of Orison, where everyone's going to have their spawn set at Orison Medical, and you're going to have hundreds of people dying, pretty quickly, assuming that Siege doesn't change. Well, then the change becomes they're able to scale the hospital by just adding extra floors, and they have the space to add those floors.
Can they do it dynamically? Do they want to do? Do they
Probably
want to
not?
have...
And that's the question, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like, is that something that they want to do retro? Like, prepare. Like, all right, Siege is running. the hospital will be bigger during or some, add more floors
Yeah,
during
yeah.
like that's an interesting point that you bring up too, because will it bog down the server that we're on always if you just have the Orison hospital be just super super large or something. But,
Yeah.
yeah, good point.
And on top of that, like if they do an event like Siege of Orison or Jumptown or anything, and everybody flocks to the same place, like it's still going to be one server, and I assume it's going to be a while before we get dynamic server meshing. So I don't know how they're going to handle this use case where either you have the capacity for 800 but you only accept 100 because they might all flock to the same place, or you find a way to like make them hop to another shard or something. Like I don't know how you solve that issue that people are just going to group up naturally at some point.
I don't know.
Well, they need the server. They need the servers to have that capacity so that they know where exactly those problems are.
Okay.
So this is the testing of that, right?
Yeah, and I think we can chat a little bit about that because somebody was in the queue, and I guess this is sort of an example of what you guys can do if you became a member or whatever, and we gave you a channel to ask a question. Their name was Floof, and they said what happens when they don't understand the difference between a shard and a server. So the assumption here is that the server can now hold an individual server can hold everybody that is on your 199 player out of 200 list. That's the idea. I think is that will never happen, and if it does, things will be bad, and that's where dynamic server meshing has to come in later. But in the current time period, which is why they're, maybe that question you asked earlier, Croncy, about how many people we should assume will be in 4.0, maybe it would be a lower number because it's not dynamic and can't address those issues. But the assumption is if there's 200, if it's a 200 player shard, then 200 people can be on one and 0 can be on the other.
That's to see the bright side. Actually, that would be on unusual use cases where people are spread out around the system, much better performance for everybody, right?
Yeah. And the difference, like when we had a caller talking about cost earlier, the cost will be high initially with these scenarios, or even maybe a little bit less. But when dynamic server meshing comes online, the cost is going to be significantly lower because you will only be using the servers that you need, and the other servers will literally be shut off. You will not have empty servers simulating an empty game. Those servers will just be off entirely.
Yeah, if Pyro is empty, the only thing that would be happening theoretically would be Quanta. Yeah. And so they don't need any of the resources.
And that's its own server. That's not even.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
So, yeah. Gail, I don't know. We're not going to cut you off. We've talked a lot, so I wanted to say that we'll give you some more time because you're the last caller anyway.
Oh no, it's fine. I'm here to listen to you guys. So, I wanted to touch on the hangars though.
Go ahead.
The hangars, I didn't expect to be that hyped by the hangar. Just the door opening at the bottom. I saw the sneak peek, but I didn't really think much of it. And then it just, I don't know, the cool factor is there. The ship coming up, the slow moving, and it's more. It just feels a lot more rewarding to call up your ship.
It feels more real. It feels more immersive. It feels right.
It's also like I imagine, Gail, you've played the game at least once. So the three of us have played the game, an amount of time. Imagine a new player coming into the game and they go to the hangar and they spawn their first ship. The CRG put like a crescendo in the music as the ship comes up. That person is playing the game for minimum a week, for sure. Like they're gonna get hooked immediately. It's such a good.
I thought you were going to go, that person is buying more ships. That's what I thought you were going to say.
I mean, yeah, honestly. But like, yeah.
The game is played on the website for now. So yeah, that's true.
Yeah. And I just wish they would add more actually to the hangars. So now that I'm hyped about it, like what if there was like some other rooms, or you could have a little mini bar or some place to hang out, a couch, a TV. What if you could have multiple landing pads? Maybe I'm wishing for too much here, but just like adding some more, like just instead of just making it one big rectangle, like having something more fancy, and maybe you rent it for a higher price.
This cannot be the end.
Yeah.
This cannot be the end. Like, I have a technical thing that I want to see that used to be in the old hangars. The old hangars had a little dot on the floor, and you could spawn in 3, 4, 5 different ships into that hangar at any given time. I want to, with the same tech that you're using with the freight elevator to place boxes around on it before you bring it up. I want to, because I have a reclaimer, let's say, right? So I have a very large hangar. I'm going to have the largest hangar possible. Well, I'm not always going to be spawning in my reclaimer. I'm going to most likely be spawning in a lot of small ships. Maybe I group up with my friends. I want to spawn in 5 prospectors for me and my friends to go mining. Or think of org situations, things like that, right? I want that to be a part of the hangar, because I'm not going to lie. Yeah. I want to melt all my large ships because I don't want that really large hangar. I want a hangar door that opens to the side. I don't want a hangar door that opens to the top. So, like, part of me, I love the idea of the door opening and flying out. I don't like the idea of flying up and out. But
that's theoretically that's still possible, right? It would just be maybe at specific locations.
I don't think the reclaimer one has a fly out.
Yeah, but not for the reclaimer.
Yeah, unfortunately. So yeah, that kind of sucks. But it makes me think of like where I want to spawn. Where like now you're choosing locations for real reasons too, and yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, if they could be like trade-offs and stuff like this, it would be great.
Yeah,
it really adds, a new layer of things that we can spend money on and think about, and complexity.
Yeah.
That I really didn't expect. So it's a nice addition. Something that I'm gonna throw out a feature request here, just because I have the platform and I've been thinking about it for a while. So I was at the Area 18 once, I think at the ship weapons shop or something like this, and I look out the window, and there was just decoration landing pads out there, just out the window in Area 18. And I was thinking, how awesome would it be if they just added like some temporary landing pads in different locations that maybe don't even indicate them, just for like experienced players that know this area well, they can land there. You fly through a city, it's pretty cool. You don't have to ride the metro.
I don't even think it's a feature. It is a planned feature. It just look at what they did.
For stations.
Well, no, I'm even talking about like, because let's assume cities here for his question, right, Croncy? Remember the rework of Hurston? They have like landing pads at these apartments that we might be living in.
Awesome.
So I think it's an intended feature. It's just a matter of them going and redoing all of ArcCorp again a little, making a few changes to that area. And then I think you have exactly what you want. And I think what you want is absolutely an intention that they want to have.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
It could be very connected to the they have building interiors, specifically. Yeah. One thing that we know that they're working on, but the last time they talked about it was still super heavy concept. So yeah, that could be why.
Yeah, I mean, like just landing at the cargo areas, like also like like the landing pads at the cargo areas are only going to be for those areas. It would be really nice to have some of that stuff.
Yep.
And for like, you could have an impound timer if people stay too long, and like actual players in Argos going around picking up ships that have stayed there too long. Like it could be pretty awesome.
Or maybe there's freight elevators that are near the pads but not on them, and you got to move stuff to and from. So yeah. And for people in Twitch chat, this is the last caller. I wanted to go a lot longer today, but it's my brother-in-law's birthday, so I'm sorry. This should be the last week that I'm time like blocked off by time.
Dependent.
So time dependent.
And I think that's the last thing I was thinking of touching on. But every time we go through an airport or a spaceport, we see those customs, and now we're completely not getting anything through customs because we're using freight elevators. So I don't know if that's outdated, or if there's still or if I misunderstood the plan there.
There's still potential there.
Point.
There is still potential there, but it'd be specifically with like future reputation, because they have talked about, they don't want you walking around cities with guns. And it's like, cool, well, if I've got freight elevators and I've got the lockers, whatever they've called, I've already forgotten their name.
Customs has to move, basically. It just has to move between where you access your freight elevator. Like you could do whatever you want in your elevator. That's your land. You can have a gun range in there if you want. But the moment you come out of that elevator, we should be scanned, and then they should be like, nope, can't do that. Because we all know they want to get rid of the Armistice Zone system at some point anyway, and deal with it in different ways like that. That is a very good point. The way the locations are designed right now do not work in this scenario? That is another very good question for Star Citizen Live, I think. I don't think it's one they can answer, but it is something to think about. That's for darn sure.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Then you need to redo the whole asset entirely. Like you can't just remove the customs individually. So
Sort
maybe
of.
they're just gonna stay like.
Sort of. The beauty of those things is they're all like modular and attached to each other.
okay.
At least the stations. Maybe not the. I know it's possible that Hurston has been fixed to be better, but the stations certainly are like little boxes that connect to each other. They could just
Yeah.
change where the elevator is, I think,
Yeah.
and then you're good.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well,
though.
it's not honestly. It's even if there's like some useless things in the airports, I think it's not the worst thing. Like
Bro,
I'm still really happy about the freight elevators.
there can
everything
literally
like
be a
this.
light that shines on you as soon as you get out of the elevator. Like they don't even have to move
Yeah.
anything. So they can fix this.
Yep.
Yep.
So
Really
Alright,
happy
Gail.
with the way everything's going at the moment.
me
Yep.
too, man. Me too.
Yep.
I have to point out the issues that we saw, and they have to prove to us that everything is going to be good. But I am generally feeling pretty good about things. It's just I want to
Mhm.
see them with my own eyes. I want to feel it, and I want to know that when I cross the server line, I can shoot across it. I can throw things across it. I can talk across it with VoIP. I can do
Yep.
all sorts of things seamlessly. As they like, there are not many promises I feel they've really made. Seamless is one of them. Your ass better be seamless, or it better feel darn seamless when we're calling this 4.0. And right now, it doesn't quite feel that way, but it feels like
To-
they can get there.
To extend
Yep.
on that just a little bit, CitizenCon was 6 months ago. With the exception of Christmas, the hype train has not stopped the entire time.
No, this has been the
I did not expect server meshing this early.
No,
even
not at all. Yeah.
even being optimistic. Yeah.
Yep, this has been the best year to cover Star Citizen as a creator because there's been very little downtime. Even though it might be like a little topic on an ISC, a little topic on an SCL, there's always been something to discuss. There's always been something to follow. There's always been something that's been a little bit interesting. Even if it was like the Hornet sale, it was like, you know, big middle finger to a lot of people, and a middle finger right back at the marketing team from me. And but at the same time, it was something to talk about.
Yeah.
No,
Even the
this
sneak
is not
peeks.
the year for Star Citizen for people in Twitch chat, but it is definitely a much easier year to cover the game. It's been quite nice. But yeah.
Yep.
All right, Gail. I
All
guess
right,
that's
happy
where we'll
sharing
leave
this
you.
with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you
Thanks
so much for
having me
calling
on.
in.
Have a good
Yeah,
one.
of course.
Yeah, you too. Have a
Bye.
great one.
Bye now.
Call in again next week.
Yeah, please. It was a good call. That's kind of where we end today. 1 out of
Yeah.
10. What's your hype levels after this week? And I know you didn't get to test
if I was
it.
allowed to get into the server meshing service, no, I am pretty hyped, but I'm also like, there's other things happening in Star Citizen that aren't like dev related that are making me hype. Like, there's a lot of this is racing season right now. Which, speaking of, everyone, Gravlevs are back in like 2 hours, I think.
Get
I'm
out of
fairly sure
here.
they're back in Arena Commander.
Oh,
It should be today. I'll have to double check, but I remember it was 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, and then they were back.
Yikes.
So it should be
my
today.
chat's going to hate me, dude, because I'm going to go back to racing all day. So are we challenging each other again, I guess, a little bit?
Maybe. I don't know if I have the
I don't know
heart
if
for it anymore.
I don't know if I have I don't know if I
I'll
have the
a heart
heart.
attack.
Yeah, I don't know if I have the heart to try to push like a tenth of a second, like we were.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
was like we hit the theoretical limit of what we could do. I think the two of us, and it was
If we get, I don't think it'll happen today. I don't think it's going to happen until 323. But if we get the leaderboards for the Daymar race, I will be. Yeah, I'll be spamming that so much.
I will not until they fix the slamming into the ground thing. I will only race Cleo Islands until they fix that.
It'll take you 10 minutes to learn that you can stay at completely bottom and not ram into anything on Daymar. I'm telling you, it's
Okay.
so.
I
good.
like Daymar a lot.
Yeah.
I like Daymar a
It's
lot.
a fantastic track.
Yeah.
And one thing I want to mention is, if you're watching this on YouTube, you should please subscribe below so that you can watch with all of these other people who are watching right now live on YouTube. And Mike, it is our most watched on YouTube live ever. that we've had today. So thank you very much, everyone,
Thank you guys
for hopping in today.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. It was pretty close to our most watched Twitch as well. So thank you everybody, and I'm glad you guys are enjoying the show and everything. It's I will never forget the day that I sat in a cruise ship bed and went, I need to change answer the call, or I need to stop doing it, and I'm so happy I changed it. So yeah, it's been awesome. It's been awesome. It's I look forward to it every week now. And
Yep.
Yeah,
It's helpful that CRG decided to give us things to talk about every week.
Holy shit. Yes, but it would be easy to just chat about a random topic with somebody else that was looking forward to being here as well. So yeah. Croncy carried for sure. Yes. Yes. So thank you. I'm glad you guys enjoy the show. Just make sure you subscribe if you haven't yet. Because again, this is the only channel that I am a part of adminning that it has more views than subscribers typically. So keep hitting that button. And yeah, you do have the option to support financially now as well. You become a member. You can tip. There's all sorts of ways.
I think we've already got 3.
3 members.
3?
Yay. Yeah.
3 members.
So call them out. Call them out. Thank them.
Rhino Separath, Antonio Vinciguerra. I'm probably butchering that name. I'm so
say
sorry.
Their first names if they got full names.
And Fire Beans.
There you go.
Thank you very much to the 3 of them.
Yeah. Thank you guys. We appreciate it. And yeah. Thank you to all the support, and I'm glad you guys like the podcast. Everybody, I can watch the view count go up as we get closer to the podcast every Sunday because people are excited to be here on Twitch as well instead of my normal stream. So it just shows. So we really appreciate you guys, and yeah, I guess that's where we leave it. Thank you. You guys have an emote on YouTube as well now to answer the call. Yeah. Don't forget
to answer the call, guys.
Dude, server meshing. Oh my god. I hope it gets better in today's test or in the future. We'll see. Let me know when you